What if I told you that taking more vitamin D isn't always the solution to a vitamin D deficiency? It sounds impossible. After all, if you're low on vitamin D, shouldn't you simply take more? Yet millions of people around the world spend more time in the sun, swallow vitamin D capsules every morning, and still struggle with low levels or symptoms that don't seem to improve. So what's really happening? To answer that, we need to follow vitamin D on a journey through your body. And along the way, you'll discover why this sunshine vitamin is far more complicated than most people realize. For decades, scientists believed vitamin D had one main job: helping your body absorb calcium to keep your bones strong. But over the last few decades, research has completely changed that view. Scientists have found vitamin D receptors in many tissues throughout the body, including immune cells, muscle cells, and other organs. Today, it's understood that vitamin D influences the activity of hundreds of genes involved in normal body functions. That doesn't mean vitamin D controls everything, but it does mean calling it just a bone vitamin is like calling a smartphone just a calculator. You're only seeing one small part of what it can do. Now here's where things get interesting. Imagine checking your bank account and seeing a healthy balance. Would that automatically mean you're financially secure? Not necessarily. Bills may still be unpaid. Investments could be failing. Cash flow could be a problem. A vitamin D blood test works in a similar way. The most common test measures the amount of vitamin D circulating in your bloodstream. It's an important test, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. Doctors don't diagnose vitamin D-related problems based on a blood test alone. They also look at symptoms, medical history, risk factors, medications, and sometimes other laboratory findings. That's why two people with similar vitamin D levels can feel completely different. One may feel perfectly healthy, the other may continue to experience fatigue, muscle weakness, or bone discomfort, because another health issue is affecting how their body functions. So if the blood test isn't the whole story, what else could be standing in the way? Here's a question that rarely gets asked. What actually happens after you swallow a vitamin D capsule? Most people imagine the vitamin enters the body and immediately starts working. But that's not how biology works. Vitamin D first has to be absorbed through your intestine. Then it travels to the liver, where it's converted into a storage form. After that, it moves to the kidneys, where it's activated into the form your body can actually use. Think about that for a moment. Before vitamin D can do its job, it has to pass through multiple checkpoints. If any of those checkpoints aren't working efficiently because of certain medical conditions, digestive problems, or kidney disease, the journey can be interrupted long before vitamin D reaches the cells that need it. And that's only the beginning, because even activated vitamin D doesn't work alone. It depends on a team of other nutrients and body systems that most people have never even heard of. So, we've reached the point where vitamin D has been absorbed. It has passed through the intestine. It has traveled to the liver. The kidneys have converted it into its active form. Now you might think, great, mission accomplished. Not quite, because the final destination isn't your bloodstream, it's your cells. And this is where many people unknowingly hit another roadblock. Scientists have discovered that almost every cell in your body has tiny docking stations called vitamin D receptors. Think of them as locks. Vitamin D is the key. Unless the key fits into the lock, nothing meaningful happens. This is why simply having vitamin D in your blood doesn't guarantee that every cell is using it efficiently. Researchers are still studying why this happens. Some people may have genetic differences that affect how vitamin D functions in the body. Others may have chronic illnesses or inflammatory conditions that influence these pathways. It's an active area of research, and scientists are still uncovering the details. But here's something we do know much more confidently. Vitamin D doesn't work alone. Imagine trying to build a house. You have bricks, lots of bricks, but you don't have cement. No matter how many bricks you buy, the house never gets built. Vitamin D is similar. Your body also needs several other nutrients that help it function normally. One of the most important is magnesium. Magnesium participates in hundreds of chemical reactions inside the body. Several of those reactions are directly involved in converting vitamin D into the forms your body uses. In fact, researchers have found that people with low magnesium levels may not respond to vitamin D supplementation as expected. That's why taking more vitamin D isn't always the first thing doctors think about. Sometimes they ask a different question. Is your body actually able to use the vitamin D you're already taking? Then comes vitamin K. These two nutrients often get mentioned together, but not because they're interchangeable. They have different jobs. Vitamin D helps your body absorb calcium from food. Vitamin K helps guide that calcium toward places where it's needed, such as bones and teeth, while supporting normal calcium balance in the body.
Before we continue our investigation, if this kind of evidence-based health content interests you, consider subscribing. Every week, we dive into the research and uncover insights that most people never hear about. Think of vitamin D as loading cargo onto a delivery truck, and vitamin K helping direct that truck toward the correct destination. Without proper coordination, the journey becomes less efficient. Now here's another fact that surprises many people. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. That means it behaves differently from vitamins like vitamin C. Instead of dissolving easily in water, it relies on your digestive system to absorb fats properly. This means that certain digestive disorders, such as conditions that interfere with fat absorption, can make it much harder for your body to absorb vitamin D, even if you're taking supplements regularly. And that brings us to another major clue in this investigation: your gut. Because sometimes the real problem isn't the vitamin D at all. It's the road it's trying to travel. So far, we've uncovered several checkpoints that vitamin D must pass before it can do its job. But the story doesn't end there. Let's look at another mystery. Why are people with obesity far more likely to have low vitamin D levels? At first glance, it doesn't make much sense. After all, vitamin D doesn't disappear. So where does it go? Researchers believe one important reason is that vitamin D is fat-soluble. Instead of remaining freely available in the bloodstream, a larger portion can become stored in body fat, leaving less circulating vitamin D available for the body to use. That doesn't mean people with obesity can't use vitamin D. It simply means their vitamin D metabolism can be more complex, and healthcare providers may recommend different monitoring or treatment strategies. Now let's talk about sunlight. We've all heard the advice: just spend more time in the sun. It's good advice, but it's incomplete. When sunlight reaches your skin, specifically UVB rays, it triggers the first step in vitamin D production. A cholesterol-derived compound in the skin is converted into a precursor of vitamin D. But that process depends on many things: your location on Earth, the season, the time of day, cloud cover, air pollution, your skin tone, your age. Even sunscreen, while incredibly important for reducing skin cancer risk, can reduce the amount of UVB reaching the skin when applied correctly. This explains why two people standing in the same sunlight may produce very different amounts of vitamin D. And here's another surprising fact. As we get older, our skin becomes less efficient at producing vitamin D. An older adult exposed to the same amount of sunlight may generate significantly less vitamin D than a younger person. That's one reason older adults are at greater risk of deficiency. But sunlight isn't the only factor. Your liver and kidneys are just as important. Remember earlier when we followed vitamin D's journey? The liver converts it into a storage form. The kidneys convert it into the active form your cells can use. So if either organ isn't functioning properly, the journey can be interrupted. This is why people with chronic kidney disease or certain liver diseases often need specialized medical management of their vitamin D status, rather than simply taking over-the-counter supplements. Now here's a question that creates a lot of confusion online. If vitamin D is good, is taking more always better? The answer is no. Vitamin D deficiency can be harmful, but excessive vitamin D can also be dangerous. Unlike water-soluble vitamins, which are generally excreted in urine when consumed in excess,
Vitamin D can accumulate over time if taken in very high doses. Too much vitamin D can cause your body to absorb excessive calcium. This condition, known as hypercalcemia, can lead to symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, excessive thirst, constipation, muscle weakness, confusion, and, in severe cases, kidney stones or kidney damage. The important point is this: vitamin D is powerful. And like many powerful things in medicine, the right amount helps, but too much can cause harm.
That's why healthcare professionals recommend treating documented deficiency under appropriate guidance, rather than assuming that higher doses are always safer or more effective. Now we're close to solving the mystery. We've learned that vitamin D isn't simply about sunlight, or supplements, or one blood test. It's about an entire system working together. And once you understand that system, the question changes completely. Instead of asking, how much vitamin D should I take? You begin asking, why isn't my body using vitamin D the way it should? And that's the question that often leads to better conversations with your healthcare provider. So after following vitamin D from sunlight, through your skin, into your bloodstream, through your liver, your kidneys, and finally to your cells, what have we actually learned? The biggest surprise is that vitamin D deficiency isn't always just a vitamin D problem. Sometimes it's a sunlight problem. Sometimes it's a nutrition problem. Sometimes it's an absorption problem. Sometimes it's related to body weight. Sometimes it's caused by an underlying medical condition affecting the liver, kidneys, or digestive system. And sometimes, several of these factors are happening at the same time. That's why two people can take exactly the same supplement every morning and end up with completely different results. So what should you actually do if you're concerned about your vitamin D? Start with the basics. If you're feeling tired all the time, have persistent muscle weakness, bone pain, or you belong to a higher risk group, don't guess. Get tested. A simple blood test, interpreted together with your symptoms and medical history, is the best place to start. If your levels are low, work with your healthcare provider to understand why. Is it simply because you're not getting enough sunlight? Could your diet be contributing? Is there an issue with absorption? Are you taking medications that interfere with vitamin D metabolism? Or is there another health condition that needs attention? Finding the cause is often just as important as treating the deficiency itself. And while supplements can be incredibly useful when they're needed, they're not magic. A vitamin D capsule can't replace a healthy lifestyle. Your body still depends on balanced nutrition, regular physical activity, good sleep, and overall metabolic health to function at its best. Think of vitamin D as one important player on a football team. Even the world's best striker can't win every match alone. The goalkeeper, defenders, midfielders, and coach all matter too. Your body works the same way. No single vitamin can carry the entire system. There's another myth worth clearing up before we finish. You may have seen videos claiming that vitamin D is the cure for dozens of diseases. The truth is more nuanced. Low vitamin D has been linked with many health conditions, including osteoporosis, falls in older adults, and certain immune-related diseases. But in many cases, researchers are still trying to answer an important question. Is low vitamin D causing the disease? Or is it simply a sign that something else is happening inside the body? That's why scientists continue to study vitamin D so intensely. Its role is undeniably important, but science moves forward by asking better questions, not by jumping to conclusions. So here's the one idea I hope you remember after watching this video. Don't think of vitamin D as a pill. Think of it as a process. A process that begins with sunlight, depends on your digestive system, passes through your liver and kidneys, interacts with your cells, and works alongside many other nutrients and healthy body systems. When one step breaks down, the entire journey can be affected. Understanding that journey is far more valuable than simply memorizing a number on a blood test. Because when you understand how your body works, you make better decisions about how to take care of it. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more science explained without hype, myths, or confusing medical jargon, subscribe to the channel. Every week, we'll investigate another fascinating question about the human body, breaking down the science into clear, practical, and evidence-based stories that help you understand your health a little better. Because the more you understand your body, the better you can work with it instead of against it.